Hey Bulldog fans, welcome into this week's edition of the Samford Sports Wrap-Up presented by Alabama Power. I'm John McAfoose. Happy today to be joined by Tommy Rohling, strength and conditioning coach for the tennis, track and field, and baseball programs. Tommy, appreciate you stopping by.
Hey, thank you. And by the way, I want to congratulate you on winning the Samspeeds. Long overdue, all part of the pandemic. Now I finally get to do it in person, but well deserved.
I appreciate that. Let me start by asking you what it is that's kept you at Samford for so long. Over 20 years on staff, one of the longest tenured employees of Samford Athletics. What is it about this university that has kept you around?
Home. I mean, you got to understand here, John, and this is part of my recruiting spiel too. I went to school here, played ball here, met my wife here, put 3 kids to the Samford Children's Learning Center, and ironically, the family business ended up moving to the old Howard College campus in Eastlake, right down from Berry Field. So it's home, and I always believed, I was always led to believe in coaching, and it's part of the time you grow up in, that when you got back to your alma mater, you know, you were back, you had made it, you were at home. And at the time I started as director of strength conditioning, when Steve Allgood wanted to form it, I actually was working in the same weight room I'd used as an athlete, walked the same sidewalks I walked as a student, ate in the same cafeteria. So it's all in what you want out of it. When I got back to Samford, I was like, you know, I started looking around, because a lot of times in coaching, the first thing you do is, okay, how do I get out of here? You know, go to climb the ladder. Then I started looking around and went, no, You know, and like I said, it was home, it was family, and, you know, and many of the people who were still here, when I came aboard, they were here when I was here as a GA. So it's been a great 23 years. And it's been a lot of fun. Hadn't regretted a bit of it, and I'm glad I've stayed. I'm glad they've kept me, wanted to keep me around as long as they have, and I've considered it a blessing.
Let's talk about the spring and what was that like for you once the sports were canceled? Because obviously you have to make sure the student athletes are still doing what they're supposed to be doing, but you really don't have that face-to-face interaction, and you can't really see the results for yourself.
Wow, the spring. Well, you know, right when this happened, we had just come out of men and women had swept indoor. So now, okay, clear shot to outdoor. Baseball was blowing and going, so were men and women's tennis. Then you start to hear these rumors ruminating. It's like, no. Then, I mean, you're on staff here like myself. We come in that Monday, March 16th. We have the meeting. Martin lets us know, out of the office by 5 p.m., and whatever you want, take with you. And it was like, okay, when are we coming back? And we're like, so I send home the workouts as if we're going to continue the spring, because we may come back. Then we start the lockdowns. So we transfer to body, because by then, nothing's open. We can't, I mean, doing nothing's not an option. So we start with the old body weight workouts. We go with that, then as things begin to loosen up and open up, then you have to look individually. Where does this person live? Where are they? What are they open to? And this too, it's a choice too. Maybe they don't feel comfortable going, which is fine. I mean, one thing you have to learn as a coach, you're dealing with somebody else's child. And it's whatever they want to do, it's their call. So then it becomes a little more specialized. What do you have access to? Then Coach Ferris came up with the idea, and we sent out to our athletes, okay, what do you have access to? Give us an itemized list. We take that, then it becomes more individualized. By about midsummer, basically everybody where they live that I dealt with had kind of opened up. Some had even gone on to play summer league, so it was becoming a little more where we could get, you know, back to the way we were doing things. But as strength coaches, you had to realize this too, some of us were operating from a deficit. They were not going to be in as good a shape because they had stopped. Now, some ways that works for us because you allow injuries to heal up, but factor that in so you don't jump back in and take it and go from 0 to 60, then we're back to where we were. And where we are right now, I'm extremely pleased. The kids have bought into it. But once again, the workout is only as good as the effort they put into it, and I've been blessed with coaches who recruit really good kids, who are weight room kids, who understand what we need. So kind of in that vein, I, as a strength coach, really have to work hard to screw this up.
Talk about the growth of the strength and conditioning program, because when you came aboard, you were a one-man army. You were the only guy in that area.
The irony is I started out in the weight room here, in the same room where I met my wife, because she was a cheerleader here at the time when I was a graduate assistant coach. And it was a tight fit in there, but, you know, and then right out of the gate, you know, our men's basketball team goes to 2 back-to-back NCAA tournaments. And when Coach Sullivan came aboard, he wanted his own strength coach. And, you know, I got it, understood. And the lucky thing for me, he brought Paul Hogan aboard, who already knew from a player in his time at Alabama. And then after that, we hired Ellen Ream. She took over women's basketball. You know, you never as a strength coach ever want to give up a sport, but you have to see the bigger picture and what's best for the athletes. And then because I'd worked with Mike Morris, who was an assistant on Jimmy Tillet's staff, and Coach Yelton had come aboard, so she took over volleyball, of which she had played volleyball at TCU in Florida, and women's basketball and soccer. And so at that time I had softball, men and women's golf, men and women's tennis, track and field, and baseball and softball. And then we hired, then when Coach Ferris came aboard, he took over men's basketball, women's basketball. So now the way we've divvied it up, I've got 4 sports, Coach Ferris has got 3, Coach Lando has 4. So yes, you miss working with them, but you also see the bigger picture of we're serving the needs of the athletes. And at the end of the day in athletics, it's still about winning.
Let me ask you about your time as a student athlete with the football program, because you were part really of a historic moment within that program. It had been discontinued in the 1970s and it came back in the 80s, and you were a part of that first team, the return of Samford football. What are some of your memories from that period of time?
Probably the first day I showed up. That's how Chuck McCall and I, who's now football coach at Dothan High School, that's how we roomed. You know how we roomed? We showed up together, and Coach Alsop said, y'all are rooming together. You're the first 2 guys here. Guess it's a good thing we got along. Many guys on the team, we're going to remember the 82-9 thumping against Salem, but you know, we were guys that had never played together. And little did we know, the precursor of that game, the starting quarterback for Salem, Jimbo Fisher, and the head coach, Terry Bowden, would be our starting quarterback and head coach my senior year in '87. Then we only won 1 game that year, beat the University of the South, Sewanee. Then we move on to 1985. We win 2 games. Then 1986, we win 3 games. I'm going, okay, this is going to be a while. Then, you know, they make a change in '86. They hire Coach Bowden. And it's funny when you do that, the rumors going around. You know, we'd heard everybody from Sylvester Croom to Jim Fuller might be our head coach. And I remember one day I walked, it was a Sunday, and my dad goes, hey, you got a new football coach? I went, really? He goes, yeah, Terry Bowden, Bobby's son. I went, really? So he comes in, and we were all a little nervous. I mean, you get a new head coach, I mean, it's his way. And I'll never forget my meeting with him. He brought me in, he said, look, man, you played fullback your first 3 years here. The offense we're going to run, I'm going to be honest with you, I really don't see a place for you playing. He goes, but I noticed in high school you played nose guard. I went, well, yeah. He goes, you know, you bulk up under Coach Stroud, his weight program, the defense we're going to play, your speed, we could really use you on defense. You know, I think you can start over there. And I went, okay. It took that long. So, and then I made the move to defense, and of course, you know, we went from 3-7 to 9-1, and that was such a fun, special year. There were 13 of us that started in '84 and went all the way to '87, and we still stay in touch to this day. And, you know, Samford has always been home, and people say, who do you pull for? And I'm like, Samford. They go, no, really, I went Auburn out. I said, no, Samford, that's where I played. This has been home. This was always where it would be.
Some great stories, Tommy. I really appreciate you stopping by, and thanks for everything you do for Samford Athletics.
No, it was an honor and a privilege, and thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Tommy Rohling, strength and conditioning coach here with Samford Athletics. I'm John McAfee. That'll do it for this edition of the Samford Sports Wrap-Up, presented by Alabama Power.